We're almost 20 episodes into rural Germany, and this is the region so far. At this point, we only have one public transport line, which is a train line that by far doesn't connect every town. So, let's fix that. In today's episode, we are going to set up a bus network that connects every single town in this region. Obviously, we're going to do this in a detailed way. So yeah, enjoy the video. Hello everyone and welcome to rural Germany. As I already said in the intro, today we're going to connect the city with buses. For the first part of the video, we will create a bus station, in German a Busbahnhof, next to the train station of Weissenburg, which will function as the center point of all the bus lines. Obviously, this will have direct access to the train station, which you also saw me build with some stairs. So how this bus station is going to work, it's going to have 3 islands with bus stops on them. You see these a lot near bigger stations, and I actually got suggested to make one in the comments, so here it is. It also adds an extra level of detail to the bus episode, and not just adding bus lines and that's it. Here we are placing some roof assets for the bus station. This is also pretty common on these bigger bus stations, to have some cover for the rain that is bigger than the usual bus shelter. The roofs are originally train station assets from the modular train station pack by Titan, but I figured they looked really well for such a modern bus station. We also added some benches and the typically German bus stop sign. Of course, we need some stains too to make the islands look less clean and more rural. Okay, so now it's time to redo the stairs leading from the bus station to the train station. The stairs we placed in the first few seconds of the video were just temporary to get an idea of where I had to build the bus station. But now we're going to do one for real, even adding fence barriers on the sides of the stairs so nobody falls off, and a ramp for disabled people that can't take the stairs. This was a lot of PO work, but it was worth it in the end because I really liked how this little corner turned out. I think it was my first time actually spending that much time on stairs and other entryways to higher places, like this ramp for disabled people, and I was kind of blown away by how much different the build looked, having such a detailed staircase, because it just feels way more complete. And previously I always forgot to download some good stair assets, so I always had some asset that wasn't really looking good as a station entrance, so I didn't really spend much attention to it, a part of telling myself every time that I should finally download some stairs. The next thing that we're going to do is quickly fill up this little gap over here. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it, because before building this bus station I expected it to turn out bigger. I was thinking of making it into a park, but as we already had one on the other side, kind of, and we will already have more of them alongside the rail tracks, I decided to place a few houses here to really connect the train tracks, the commercial district, and the town. Obviously the gardens need to be detailed too, so let's do that right now. To finish up the bus station, we will be adding a few more lights before going on to creating our first bus line. There will be 3 main bus lines and 1 really small bus line, which just leads to the castle and back from here. Okay, so the first bus line is going to be a bus line between Ersendorf, the first town we built in this series, and Weissenburg, the town that we've been building in the past couple episodes, and that also contains the bus station of today's video. As you can see, it will have a few stops along the way and then just turn around and go back again. For the detailing part, we will start detailing the bus stops at the most right stop and then work our way left on the map that I displayed a few seconds ago. But first we obviously have to create the bus line, which is what we are doing right now. We're now starting to detail the bus stops of the first bus line. For some stops that means that I'm going to only add a custom bus stop sign. For others I will also add a shelter to it. And you will also see that for some stops I will upgrade the road to a road that doesn't have this bus bay that is standard on the road that we're mainly using throughout the city, which makes it feel even more rural. So don't be confused, it's just upgrading the road. And that's why there is a bus stop, but you just won't be able to recognize it off of the bus bay, and the buses will just stop on the road. So for this bus stop we are doing something interesting. The bus bays of the blank roads have a small visual glitch with the sidewalk, which is kind of ugly, so I decided to cover it with moss decals. The only struggle was to get the moss blending in with the grass as much as possible, but at the end I think it worked fairly well. Although we are in a pretty unlucky angle right now, and from the cinematic it looks a little bit better, but for that you'll have to wait until the end of the video. So we're continuing with the second bus line, which is a bus line that basically goes around the Weissenburg castle. It is mainly meant to connect Weissenburg to the surrounding valleys, and it won't go back and forth either. It's just one big circle. There's not much more to say about the detailing, as it's pretty similar to what we did for the first bus line, so enjoy the time lapse. Well, that was a rather short time lapse. I didn't remember that the detailing of this bus line went that quick. Anyways, before we continue with the third bus line, we have to make a road connection. We will also have to make a train connection, as this is the line that basically goes from Ersendorf to Boorsee and then to Weissenburg, but that will be for another time. For For now we are just focusing on the road from Boorsee to Weissenburg because that is what the third bus lane is going to be leading to. An interesting fact about this road is that it's going to be asymmetrical with 2 lanes leading upwards and 1 lane leading downwards. You sometimes find this on bigger roads in Germany, on the highways as well, that there is an extra lane for the slow trucks that would have difficulties to reach normal speeds on the big slopes. Having 2 lanes here, this creates the possibility for cars to overtake the trucks, so there won't be a gigantic traffic jam when one truck tries to drive up the hill. This is especially important because this is the main road from the highway to Weissenburg, which is one of the center towns in the region, and also going to be the main road that leads to the place where the Autobahn continues. Because as I explained a few episodes ago, this is just a highway interruption and not a complete ending. And that means that all the transit traffic will be going through this road to get to the other side of the interruption. Also, I have an important announcement to make. I created a Patreon this weekend, finally, and you can support me on there if you want, which would ultimately bring me closer to buying a new PC to reduce my multiple hour-long loading times. I think the last time when I loaded up the game it was 3 hours, 3.5 hours, something like that. But remember that it's your own choice and only do it if you really can afford it, because I already appreciate you watching my videos at all. So please don't worry if you don't want or can't support me on Patreon. So the last big line that we're going to create today is going to be the line between Boorsee and Weissenburg, with the option of expanding the bus line to the direction of Boorsee when we build a town in that direction. For now the line barely has any stops, so it will also be barely any detailing, but later on it could play a key part in the public transport when we continue expanding further away from Boorsee, and that will definitely come in the future. Okay, and the very last line of today's episode will be the line from Weissenburg station to the castle. It is only for tourists and I didn't even bother making a map for it because it only consists of 2 stops, 1 stop at the station and 1 on the castle. The thing that we're going to build right now is a more detailed bus stop. It is basically going to consist of a separate bus bay, separate of the main road, and we're just going to detail that and place a few houses around it. I basically did this because I didn't want to make it all boring and not add any really special stop apart of the Moss stop and the one we made in the beginning. And I felt like a stop in the middle of town, yeah, it just would be cool to have one that is more special than just a bus shelter with a bus stop sign. It also makes sense from a historical point of view, because in the past we obviously didn't have the modern bus station that we have next to our current train station, and I can imagine that the trains got constructed later than the buses, so the bus probably was the only connection of public transport in the region. And then it would make sense to have a more advanced bus stop on the main road, because it's not really in the middle of town, so you could say that when this bus stop got created, the houses that are next to it still had to be built and were built later. And I can very well imagine that instead of the center point that we have right now as the bus station next to the train station, they would have chosen this location before the modern bus station was constructed. Anyways, with that we've come to an end of the episode. I really hope you enjoyed it and make sure to subscribe if you did. In the next episode we will be filling up the areas around the town to basically get a semi-complete version of this town for episode 20, because after that I want to do a cinematic tour of this town, as that is what we've been mainly working on during the past 10 episodes. And it's kind of became a tradition that I do something special for every 10 episodes. So I have one more thing to say, and that is to enjoy the cinematics, and I'll see you next time.